Welcome to NTD Evening News. I'm Brendan Fallon. Our top stories tonight. The FBI releases new footage of the New Orleans attacker. It shows the suspect placing explosives and apparently scouting the best location for the attack. Icy roads and dangerous cold are freezing states from the Midwest to the Mid-Atlantic. Find out what more to expect from winter storms in the week ahead. Italy's Prime Minister meets President-elect Trump in Florida. The topics the two were scheduled to talk about. Former commerce official says China could immediately stop all U.S. manufacturing. She says America has done nothing to prepare. Cases of a virus that causes cold-like symptoms reportedly on the rise in China. We talk about the spread of the virus with a former U.S. Army microbiologist. Shenyun Performing Arts began its tour of the UK this weekend. Audience members in Birmingham said they felt warm inside from the beauty of the performance.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. The Federal Bureau of Investigation today provided an update on the Bourbon Street attack in New Orleans. Officials gave new information on the suspect's movements, as well as a new video showing him placing an explosive device. NTD's Don Ma has more.
The FBI on Sunday released never-before-seen video of the New Orleans truck ramming suspect. In the chilling footage, Samsuddin Jabbar can be seen placing his improvised explosive device on Bourbon Street.
Jabbar placed the first IED in the cooler at Bourbon and St. Peter Street at 1:53 a.m. Someone on Bourbon Street, who we have no reason to believe was involved, dragged the cooler a block to Bourbon and Orleans, where our teams found it after the attack. Jabbar placed the second IED in a bucket-type cooler at 2:20 a.m. on Bourbon and Toulouse Streets.
According to the FBI, he made 2 previous trips to the city in recent months, apparently scouting the best location for the attack, even using a pair of Meta smart glasses to record video of a bicycle ride through the French Quarter. Jabbar was wearing a pair of Meta glasses when he conducted the attack on Bourbon Street, but he did not activate the glasses to record his actions that day. He also traveled in 2023 to Cairo, Egypt, as well as Ontario, Canada, although it is not clear yet whether those trips were connected to the attack. The New Orleans coroner's office has identified all 14 deceased victims, among whom the youngest was aged 18 and the oldest was 63. Most were in their 20s. Don Ma, NTD News.
Major snowfall and periods of extreme cold are affecting a long stretch of the United States, with the center of the blizzard conditions heaviest in central U.S., but traveling eastward. NTD's Colin Fredrickson has more.
Up to 63 million people are under a winter storm threat. Officials say to expect widespread road closures and disruptions to daily life. Kansas is seeing the fiercest conditions, with a wintry belt of affected states spreading eastward. The National Guard was activated in Indiana to help drivers caught in the blizzard. 3 highways in the state had portions fully covered with snow, and plows struggled to keep up. State police begged drivers to stay off the roads. Part of a road was also closed in Kansas. The storm is set to continue moving east into Monday towards mid-Atlantic states. Monday will bring bitter cold to the eastern 2/3 of the country, and it's expected to bring cold as far south as Florida. Expect temperatures 12 to 25 degrees below normal. A plume of cold air is also coming down from Canada. If the wind speed picks up, it will create dangerously cold conditions. Air and rail travel are also crawling along with many cancellations. Some schools have already announced cancellations for Monday. For some students, it's their first day back from winter break. Many areas have declared states of emergency. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear said in a statement that the winter storm will likely cause significant disruption and dangerous conditions on roads and could cause significant power outages just 24 hours before it gets dangerously cold. The National Weather Service said it's possible some locations could receive their heaviest snowfalls in at least a decade.
Italy's Prime Minister met with President-elect Trump on Saturday in Florida. Giorgia Meloni went to Mar-a-Lago to forge ties with the next commander-in-chief.
Meloni's visit comes after Italian journalist Cecilia Sala was detained by Iranian police. The incident happened while Sala was reporting in Tehran late last month. This is one of the topics Meloni planned to speak with Trump about. Others include Russia's war in Ukraine, trade issues, and the Middle East. Trump and Meloni watched a screening of a documentary about challenges that conservative lawyers reportedly face in the legal system. Trump's pick for Secretary of State, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, also attended the screening. So did Florida Representative Mike Waltz, who's Trump's choice for National Security Advisor. Meanwhile, President Biden is set to travel to Rome next week. He's scheduled to meet with Pope Francis and Prime Minister Meloni. The trip takes place shortly before Biden's term in office ends. White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre says Biden intends to discuss with the Pope efforts to advance peace around the world, while talks with Meloni will cover, quote, important challenges facing the world.
President Joe Biden today signed into law the Social Security Fairness Act. It's a measure that aims to boost Social Security payments for current and former public employees. It could affect millions of people who receive pensions.
By signing this bill, we're extending Social Security benefits for millions of teachers, nurses, and other public employees and their spouses and survivors. That means an estimated average of $360 per month increase. That's a big deal in middle-class households like the one I grew up in, many of you did. And for millions of Americans going forward. That's not all. Over 2.5 million Americans are going to receive a lump sum payment of thousands of dollars to make up for the shortfall in the benefits they should have gotten in 2024.
The bill removes two provisions that limit Social Security benefits for recipients if they get retirement payments from other sources. The Congressional Research Service estimated that in December 2023, there were nearly 3 million people impacted by the provisions. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that by removing the provisions, recipients could get hundreds of dollars more in benefits in the coming year. And those amounts would increase over time with Social Security's regular cost of living adjustments. All eyes now on House Speaker Mike Johnson and how he'll advance President-elect Trump's agenda. He says the House has a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it. NTD's Fiona G. reports.
Newly re-elected House Speaker Mike Johnson spoke with Fox's Maria Bartiromo on Sunday. He said House Republicans are focused on crafting a reconciliation bill.
We made a lot of campaign promises. President Trump did as well. And reconciliation is the way to get it done. Why? Because you avoid a 60-vote threshold in the Senate. So reconciling the budget, which we will pass in early February, is how we'll get all of our committees involved, committees of jurisdiction on all these big issues. What are they? Well, obviously, we have to secure the border. We've got to make sure that our Border Patrol agents and our immigration enforcement agencies have the right directives from the White House, but also the right resources to do their job and secure that border once and for all.
At the top of the agenda for the reconciliation bill are key issues, including securing the border, reviving the U.S. economy, incentivizing U.S. manufacturing, reducing regulation, restoring American energy dominance, and addressing the debt limit. According to the House Speaker, President-elect Trump wants to pass one big bill covering all of these key issues rather than two separate bills, which was proposed by certain lawmakers. Johnson said House Republicans are hoping to bring the bill to a vote on the House floor by the first week of April and onto the president's desk by the end of April. If this were the timeline, the bill could possibly be enacted within Trump's first 100 days in office. By delivering on his party's promises, House Speaker Johnson is hoping to secure re-election for Republican seats during the midterm elections in 2 years. The Louisiana congressman is now presiding over a House with the narrowest Republican majority in almost a century. Fiona G., NTD News.
A former commerce official says China could immediately stop all U.S. manufacturing. She says America has done nothing to prepare. Here's the story.
If China bans the exports of the industrial diamonds and the cubic boron nitride to the United States, all U.S. manufacturing stops.
Former commerce official Nazak Nikotar discussed China's threat to America with American thought leaders as host Jan Yakelik. Industrial diamonds are used in every cutting tool, vital for all manufacturing. But Nikotar says China controls the entire supply chain. She explains how it did it.
They underpriced to get everybody else out of the market so the Chinese can control that supply chain, and through that exercise of that control of the supply chain, right, coerce the United States and the rest of the world.
The Qatar warns China could stop all U.S. manufacturing by stopping these diamond exports. She says it takes 3 years for America to adapt. For example, when making a semiconductor, 60% of the manufacturing process requires these diamonds. Other affected industries include batteries, aerospace, defense, construction, basically anything that requires cutting.
The U.S. has not done anything about it. We haven't stockpiled. We haven't invested in manufacturing. We're still walking around with our head in the sand.
The Qatar says America must completely overhaul dumping laws, work with allies to counter China, and actively help industries survive. She says incoming President Donald Trump is already addressing this with tariff threats.
You can watch the full interview on American Thought Leaders at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on January 13. Cases of HMPV reportedly on the rise in China. We'll have an expert on to talk to us about the concerns surrounding the virus. Congestion pricing just started today in New York City. People aren't sure of the long-term effects, yet those same problems are about to start.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return. Shenyun.
بیست و سه سال
16 سال عمري ما هفت
اما داعش کردیان برانبر خوشک و دایکانی ازدی ما کاری که دور لهمو چمک دموکراسی و موافقانی مرو و انسانیت او بارودوخی که است های به تایبت عراق و سوریه بشه که دگرت و با حالانه که اداره اوباما کرد
ریم بو او هفت روز بو و داعش از کرد
تامبوم كرا قوتينيز قريا بما متشكر بحر في ذا نبو باوان رحمنا
ودمنا سؤالنا من خادران نزر باوان نفستم بس نا وانا قوبس ناش بيجوش باش.
They would literally be auctioned in front of soldiers, and then the soldiers begin to bid.
زارود وان همو جيبرم تي حمري زارود الدم واسي سيبان همو جيبرم
وحشیگریه که توا عیاره ظلمی که یک جار زور گوره لما افرطانه کرده و تعدایی که زور زوریان لیده کرده اما نه روزانه دست فروشیده اليوم التوزيع كل الرصيد.
Imagine being a child, having a child mentality, and these evil people come and wheel you away from the only safety you've ever known.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
Cases of human metapneumovirus, or HMPV, are reportedly on the rise in China. Now China's neighbors, including Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Malaysia, are closely monitoring HMPV infections. To break down these concerning reports, we have Sharon Lin, member of the Committee of Present Danger China and a former U.S. Army microbiologist. Sharon, good evening.
Good evening, Brendan. Thank you for inviting me.
Before we talk about anything else, what exactly is HMPV? What are the symptoms?
Okay. So HMPV, human metapneumovirus, is actually very similar to respiratory syncytial virus. It's another negative sense RNA virus. And so it's a common respiratory pathogen, and it can cause infection in upper and lower respiratory tract. And the symptoms very similar to flu, and usually it doesn't cause severe symptoms. And the primary target is actually children under 5 years old or seniors. And so in the past, it's a target routinely surveillanced, but it's not a high priority. So usually for respiratory infection, you first for flu, right? So whether it's influenza A or B, that's flu, and then you have coronavirus, and then you do RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. So human metapneumovirus is not on the top three, yeah.
What kind of numbers are we seeing reported in terms of deaths, hospitalizations in China, and what about in terms of China's neighbors?
I think so far, the data from China is very fragmented. The government did mention this winter season, they see a huge spike of the HMPV, but exactly what are the cities or regions have a significantly jump versus other region that may be like routine or similar level at the last 2 years. We don't know the detail yet. And the neighboring country that you mentioned, I think they are playing very good strategy to be very cautious, to be very observative to see if anything unusual happening in China, because every country, learned the lessons from the pandemic. COVID pandemic, so everybody want to be, paying close attention to the public health situation inside China. But the data from China is still very limited. We haven't seen any major hospitals have a clear declaration say they are facing an outbreak at the pandemic or at the endemic level, not even pandemic level, right? So we do see in China many other big hospitals have a lot of children's going to see doctors, more hospitalizations, more respiratory infections need a secondary care. We see these kind of reports, but a lot of them is sporadic on the internet. So the problem is that the Chinese government didn't provide a systematic data for outside world to understand what's the real situation.
We just passed the 5-year anniversary of the SARS-CoV-2 outbreak in Wuhan. Does this, what you're seeing in the pattern of this virus, does it bear any resemblance to what happened 5 years ago?
I doubt. I don't think the human metapneumovirus will be pathogen that the whole public health community will be really, really cautious about it. I think what is really very, very interesting is the potential of bird flu transmitting more into human transmission, right? So this year we do see some bird flu cases, human infected H5N1 cases in the United States, but it has not become a human-to-human transmission, like a sustained transmission. In the past, in China, we see H7N8, H10, and H10N8, these kind of human infection, and also H5N1 human infection case. And some of these have potential to be highly pathogenic and have potential to be, gradually adapted to be more human-prone infections. So I think this is what the whole world is really watching on right now, besides coronavirus. So I think flu situation, it will be very unique, or whether we have a new strain of like H1N1 become more pathogenic. We just need to be pay close attention to that. And we do see some report mentioning in China this season for the influenza virus infection, 99% are actually H1N1. So very, very little H3N2 seasonal. So this is a little bit unusual, but we're still in the early winter period right now. So we just need to pay close attention to what's going on inside China.
Right. How high do you rate the danger of HMPV or any of the other viruses that you've touched on there having an outbreak in the US?
I think overall it's very low risk. I think in China, the current situation, the more people need a hospitalization, secondary care, or severe symptom. That's related to the immune systems in Chinese population, because many people have multiple COVID infection. Many people have maybe long COVID, or maybe people have even Chinese versions of vaccines side effects. So I think many Chinese people have weakened immune system. That's why even just regular respiratory pathogen like RSVs and mycoplasma pneumonia or HMPV, it can cause more people to be more sick than many other countries. So more people can turn into a severe symptom. So I think this is what unique inside China.
And just in general, Sean, for people not just concerned about the viruses we've talked about, but just the flu in general, what can they do to raise their immunity in the face of viral infection?
I think overall, Chinese people don't have to be too panicked. I think at this moment, Chinese government in the last couple of years always talk about, this year is mycoplasma pneumonia, this year is RSV, and now HMPV. Chinese government seem to play this kind of game to cause the public to be more cautious. And then the hospital and many places try to make people do more testings. I think that's another way that the Chinese government try to make money. So for general public, I think the first thing is don't have to be panic. I need to be cautious to do more regular exercise, have a good rest, and try to be more optimistic. That will also boost your immune system. And then you have a healthy diet, do regular exercises, and then do regular hygiene protections. Washing hands more, or wear mask in some public gatherings. And I think in these kind of situations, respiratory infection is very hard to prevent. So you just need to strengthen yourself, have good diet, good exercise, good resting. I think that will help.
Some good practical advice there, Sean, starting with don't panic. Sean Lin, member of the Committee of Present Danger China, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Today, drivers in New York started paying a lot more to get into certain parts of the city. NTD's Sean Marshall has more on how it's affecting citizens.
3, 2, 1.
Congestion pricing started Sunday in New York City. The $9 toll for drivers to enter Midtown Manhattan is meant to reduce traffic gridlock in the densely packed city while also raising money to help fix public transportation. Bicycle Habitat in NYC has some workers that drive to work. The manager says the new toll could cause some problems.
We don't know what kind of effect it's going to have at this point. It will depend how freight companies behave. It will depend how consumers behave.
The cost to drivers depends on what time of the day it is and if drivers have an Easy Pass, an electronic toll collection system that's used in many states.
Riding the train is not super easy, which is why I ride a bike back and forth to work. I find that a much easier way and a much better way to get around. Because we sell bikes, there's a chance more people may adopt bikes as mode of transportation. We don't know if that will happen. It may not.
Other big cities around the world, including London and Stockholm, have similar congestion pricing programs, but it is the first time in the U.S.
We understand the need, that the MTA needs better funding. If you've ridden the trains lately, they don't run on time, they have a challenging thing, their service and disrepair. The system is over 100 years old and has never gotten the funding it needs. Whether this is the right way to do it, I don't know.
New York Fire Department unions are already predicting congestion tolls to cause delays in emergency alert operations. Some New York firefighters may leave their cars at home to keep from paying the fees. This would hinder firefighters from using their own vehicles to help out with emergencies outside of their work zone. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
The opening weekend of Shenyun's UK tour immersed audiences in Birmingham with stories from China's 5,000-year civilization.
Shenyun Performing Arts gave its second performance in Birmingham, UK on January the 4th. And despite the winter weather and snowy forecast, audience members said they felt warm inside from the beauty of the performance.
It was excellent. Very, very impressed. Choreography was superb. The costume was excellent. And it's just lovely to see such a wonderful cultural performance.
Very spectacular and really heartwarming.
I feel warm inside and uplifting. It's made me feel quite motivated and mindful, I guess. So I found it to be really quite therapeutic.
Shenyun Performing Arts is an artistic revival and celebration of China's 5,000 years of cultural heritage. However, under the communist regime, much of its true essence has been destroyed.
It was quite a nice way of sort of telling the story of the history of China, and obviously there's a little bit of the politics about how it's gone now and how they should really sort of look back to their roots and the culture that's for thousands and thousands of years old.
There's a lot that's been lost, I think, in modern day China, and it's good to revive and see the ancient traditions that could have been lost.
It's drawing on traditions that were based on very grounded emotions and people's striving to achieve goodness and to be nice and wholesome. It just feels like really warming, that people want to share it as well.
The performance brings classical Chinese dance to the stage, along with folk and ethnic dance styles. It includes a live orchestra, blending Eastern and Western instruments. It also features traditional bel canto singers.
I think excellent. The music was very, very good. Obviously conducted excellently as well, and it all fitted together very well. I actually closed my eyes when the tenor was on, only to be nudged by one of my daughters saying, "No, you have to read the words that it says." I was just listening to how beautiful it was.
I love the interpretation of the dance and the choreography with the music, and the costumes that go with it are amazing. The colours, I love it. Absolutely, I was transfixed.
Shenyun's tour of cities across the UK is set to continue until March the 6th. NTD UK News, Birmingham, UK.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Brendan Fallon. Good night.